My name is Tom Crotty. I'm a 20-year resident of Southborough. I've been on the board of the Foundation for MetroWest now for about 2 years. And the role of the foundation is pretty clear. We support nonprofits and philanthropy in a region that is west of 128, in the 495 corridor, anywhere from Carlisle up north to Walpole in the south. And we feel our role is to do three things. First, we support philanthropists or anybody who's looking to get involved in nonprofit work and to make grants and support nonprofits. We help them develop their strategies and help identify places where they could put their money in terms of supporting nonprofits. A big piece of what we do is raising capital and actually granting that capital to nonprofits in that geographic region I just described. And then the third piece is we support philanthropy through education programs, where we do seminars for nonprofits that allow them to figure out how to build a board, how to use social media for fundraising purposes. What is the right governance structure for their board, and what are the right nonprofit governance type of things that they should be doing. So we run a suite of seminars that are available to any nonprofits in our region so they can get educated. And then finally, in addition, on the education side, we do a program called the Youth in Philanthropy Program, which is designed to work through the schools to train young people and get them to understand about giving back and being involved with nonprofits. And we allow them to actually have capital to deploy and make grants to nonprofits in our region. So that's the primary role of the foundation. So having joined the board 2 years ago, one of the things that the board of directors undertook about 18 months ago was a relook at the whole strategy that the foundation was pursuing. Our mission, our goal was to increase our impact in the region, and we were evaluating different strategies and how to go about doing that. Ultimately, we formed a strategic planning committee, a subgroup of the board, who spent about a year thinking through alternative strategies for growth, and came to the conclusion and made a recommendation to the full board that we look at a new approach to addressing the geography. Historically, the foundation had been, there's 33 cities in the MetroWest region that we've been trying to support. And that's a lot of ground to cover. There's a lot of nonprofits, there's a lot of towns. And so we were pretty much skimming the surface across many of those towns, and in fact hadn't really done anything in a significant number of the towns in the region. Our thought process was to, instead of kind of being a mile wide and an inch deep, to kind of invert the strategy and to try to drive down and go deeper and deeper into the towns of MetroWest, so that we're raising more capital, having more of an impact in each community, getting more members of a particular town involved with supporting their community in their local town. And so the strategy was to begin to open up and create town-by-town funds. And one of the first few towns that we've done is Southborough. And as part of that strategy, I helped to put together and develop the Southborough Community Fund and the whole concept behind the SCF. So the Southborough Community Fund, the process to put it in place began in about January, February of 2014. Being a trustee of the foundation and being kind of a leader in the development of the town fund strategy, I kind of decided, well, I should step up and execute on the strategy by starting the Southborough Community Fund. First thing I did was to pick up the phone and call a good friend of mine who I actually went to high school with, Betsy Crowley, who was a longtime Southborough resident, and try to talk Betsy into getting involved in this little startup, if you will, with me. She signed on. A neighbor of mine, Kathy Key, who I've known, been good family friends with for a long time. Kathy's been intimately involved in a number of nonprofit related and kind of giving back in the town. And she knows a lot of the right people. Kathy signed on. We're now at the point where we built the Southborough Community Fund board to 7 board members. We're looking to expand that to 10 over the course of 2015. We all got together for our first board meeting in about the April timeframe of 2014, laid out a game plan to raise some capital, and we were fortunate to be able to, just basically touching on the board members and some immediate friends, put together a pool of $30,000, which we then plan to give out in a competitive grant process towards the end of 2014. So from after putting the board together, putting a little pool of capital together to give away, we then fanned out as a group and we started meeting with all of the appropriate people in town to start to spread the word about what the Southborough Community Fund was and what we were intending to do. So we met with some selectmen, we met with the fire chief and the police chief, we met with, went over and talked to the folks at the senior center. We reached out to kind of the people in town who have been intimately involved in a number of the agencies and groups that support various constituents in town, from the seniors to the kids, the Youth and Family Commission, the Council on Aging, Friends of the Library, the folks involved with the environment in town. So we basically went out and introduced ourselves and what we were planning to do to a number of people in town. And that's how we kind of got things launched. Doing a lot of analysis of all of the applications that we received, the board of the Southborough Community Fund ultimately decided that there were 10 organizations that we felt very compelled about the projects that they were proposing that we wanted to help financially support. So they ranged anywhere from, we had I think three, maybe four of those grants were relatively modest in the $500 to $1,000 range. And we had 3 or 4 grants that were more substantial, up in the $5,000 and $6,000 range across the 10 grants that we made. Couple of the interesting ones that we were very excited about supporting. One was the library had a science program that they wanted to run for elementary school kids in town. And they applied for that, and we thought that was a great use of our capital, so we supported that request. One of the others that we were very happy to support was Southborough Access Media, and a film that they were looking to do, which was really sitting down and interviewing Southborough veterans about their life, about their service, and about their giving back to both the United States and our community through their efforts. And we thought that was a wonderful project. One of the grants that the Southborough Board was excited about was the Assabet Valley Master Singers under the area of arts and culture, obviously. And they have on March 8th, 2015, are going to be doing a performance related to the Diary of Anne Frank, which they were looking to get financial support to be able to do, and we were happy to support that initiative. One of the more interesting, in 2 cases of the 10 grants that we made, we're actually funding a pilot program in Southborough. One of those is the Council on Aging, and as many people in town know, there are a substantial number of our citizens who are getting to the point where they're homebound. They can't really get out. They can't drive any longer. They may or may not have family in town, and so they're essentially getting stuck in their homes. So one of the programs, pilot programs that we're going to try, that we're supporting financially and hope to then, if it works, expand upon, is a friendly visitors program. And so what we'll be doing, or what the Council on Aging will be doing, is putting a program that brings in volunteers, trains them, and then has them paired up with an elderly person in town who's essentially shut in and unable to get out. And by putting them together and building friendships, we hope to really help keep them integrated in the community, keep them from being too lonely and things along those lines. So that pilot program we have a lot of hope for, and we hope to be able to expand it with future grants. The second pilot that we're working on is with the Southborough Fire Department as well as the Senior Center. And again, given the challenges of so many of our elderly residents being home, being at home and not being able to get out, they are there's the safety issues of not being able to, if somebody has fallen and can't get to the door, how do we get into their homes? If no one's hurt, if we're not sure that the person is safe or is healthy, the people in the community want to be able to get into these elderly folks' homes and just make sure that they're okay. If they're behind locked doors, it becomes difficult. So we're piloting a program in town where we purchased 3 what's called Knox boxes, which the Southborough Fire Department will install on elderly people's homes, and allows the Southborough Fire Department to enter without having to break glass to get in or anything along those lines. So we're going to pilot a program of these Knox boxes and then see if we can expand it in the future. One of the grants that we were really pleased to be able to support was the Southborough Youth Commission and their summer camp program. And not all the kids in Southborough are in a position to be able to afford to go to camp. Parents are working during the summer. It's very stressful to figure out how to take care of your kids when you're trying to work at the same time. So we made a grant to their summer camper program, which will allow a significant number of kids in Southborough to attend camp this summer, even though they may not necessarily be able to afford it. Another interesting grant that we received and we're excited about being able to support was from the Southborough Rec Department. And there's a fair number of residents in town who have kids who have physical disabilities that make it extremely difficult for them to be out and active physically. There's a type of bike that can be that the rec department has. I think they have one at this point that allows kids who have severe physical disabilities to be able to get on the bike and be able to ride. And it's it's great fun for the kids. It's great for their self-esteem. It's great for them physically. It has many health benefits for these kids to be able to ride these bikes, but they're very expensive. These are several $1,000s each of these bikes, and it takes a trained physical therapist or gym teacher who's been trained on how to use these bikes to be with the kids. And so we funded the purchase of 2 bikes, and they're looking to, and it should help significantly expand the number of kids getting access to this type of physical activity that they haven't had a chance to do in the past. As I said earlier, the Southborough Community Fund will invest in family services, in arts and in the arts, and in the environment. And so we supported the Southborough Open Land Foundation with one grant this year to help them complete a survey, a wildlife survey that they were doing in town, and to fund some of their nature programs that they're trying to increase and roll out through town. And we felt that that would be a great use of our capital to help them with those activities. One of the more interesting applications that we received, which we thought was a great program to support, was a collaboration between 3 different town agencies, including Youth and Family Services, the Food Pantry, and the Senior Center. There's a number of families in town that, through no fault of their own, find themselves in some financial difficulty, to the point where many of the folks at these 3 agencies run into families that literally, it's in the middle of winter and they can't afford to pay for fuel in their home. And they're literally freezing to, potentially freezing to death in their own home. Folks who have come upon economic hardship and literally can't buy a tank of gas to get to work. There's these situations that just come to the attention of key folks in town, and the goal is to be able to help these folks through these difficult economic times, and to make sure that they can keep their home heated, that they can get to work, or they can get some key medicine if they can't afford it when they're sick. And so the proposal that we received was to create an emergency need fund for the town that folks in difficult circumstances would be able to avail themselves of. And so we were really pleased to be able to provide capital to fund that emergency need fund, which hopefully won't ever get used. And last but not least, after all the great work that the food pantry in Southborough does, we also made a nice donation to their food insecurity program. That it's not that well understood that in town there are between 50 and 65 families a week that reach out to and need the help of the Southborough Food Pantry. And so their food insecurity program is very important, but not very well known in town. And so we were very pleased that they applied and we were able to help with a donation to their food security program. So essentially the Southborough Community Fund is we're integrated with the Foundation for MetroWest. Instead of, when we decided to put the Southborough Community Fund together, instead of having to apply to become a 501c3, instead of having to put all of our financials together every month and to hold our audits, and instead of having to open up our own bank accounts, instead of having to hire somebody to market our programs, by being an affiliate of the Foundation for MetroWest, all of those things are done for us. So the Southborough Community Fund essentially has no overhead. We have no employees, we don't have to pay to have audits done. All of these services, if you will, are provided to the Southborough Community Fund by the Foundation for MetroWest. So it's a fantastic way to get going with a nonprofit in your own town by basically working under the auspices of the Foundation for MetroWest. Any town, if it's going to be a great community where people really feel integrated, they feel part of the community, has to have a vehicle through which we take care of our own. And there's a lot of really generous people in Southborough, but there was no framework or mechanism, overall framework or mechanism through which they could become aware of needs in town and have a vehicle through which to donate to those. We have a lot of organizations that have their own friends of, Friends of the Council on Aging, Friends of Youth and Family Services, Friends of the Library, but there's no holistic organization that really helps to develop capital and support all of the different agencies and all the different nonprofits that work in town. So we think that the Southborough Community Fund will fill a big need in town in terms of identifying where all of us as members of Southborough can help, and be a vehicle through which anybody who is looking to help our community will be able to give. An awful lot, we have a lot of generous people in town, a significant number of them involved with supporting nonprofits in the area, oftentimes in Boston. And so one of our goals is really to try to get people to recognize that there's more need in Southborough than they may understand, and think about giving to take care of our own neighbors, as opposed to helping to solve problems in downtown Boston or some other region of the world or the country. And that's what our goal is to really to motivate Southborough community residents to take care of our own. And I have no question that everybody in town is very generous and wants to do that, but not that many people have been aware of the vehicles for how to do that or aware of the need in town. And so hopefully we can motivate everybody to kind of do more and help build more community in the town of Southborough. So anyone interested in supporting either the Southborough Community Fund or the Foundation for MetroWest can go to the Foundation's website, which is www.foundationformetrowest.org. And on the website you'll be able to find the Southborough Community Funds page, and you could donate to us there, or you can donate to the foundation as well on the website.